On January 4th, 2020, user Throwaway I Wonder Why posted to r/relationship advice with what might be one of the strangest and most unsettling relationship dilemmas encountered on the platform. The story you are about to hear starts off as what seems like an innocent man's attachment to his childhood teddy bear, but it quickly spirals into territory that will leave you completely speechless. The post is titled, "My boyfriend's relationship with his teddy bear is making me uncomfortable." Here's how this bizarre situation unfolds.
Okay, now please no joke, this is actually serious. I've been with my boyfriend for 3 months now, so it's pretty new. So far, everything is going well, except this tiny little detail. He has this teddy bear. Let's name him Teddy. Teddy has always been a part of my boyfriend's life. He got him for his birthday, and when at around the age of 5 or 6, his parents tried taking Teddy away from him. He screamed and cried so loud without stopping that they ended up giving up. So he kept Teddy with him his whole life. He mentioned Teddy to me pretty early, about a week after us being together. He showed me pictures of him, and I found it cute at first. He had plenty of pictures of him in different situations. Him with a mug, him laying in bed, him studying. I truly found it adorable since I thought it was just a joke, really, and didn't think that Teddy was such a big part of his life. The more we got to know each other, the more he started mentioning him. He'd often make jokes about him. When he had to come back to his flat, he'd say, "I have to come back, Teddy is waiting for me." And then later, he'd text me, "Okay, I put Teddy to bed, so now I might go to sleep as well. I don't want to wake him up." Again, a little weird, but cute still. But he really started talking about him consistently, always linking what we were doing to him. Oh, I wish Teddy was with us to see that. Teddy doesn't really like people, so I won't take him with me for this party, and etc. He'd send me selfies with him at least twice a week. He also sometimes said weird stuff, like whenever we watched a sex scene in a movie, he'd say, "That's what me and Teddy do when we're alone." Or, when I asked when he lost his virginity, he answered, "Oh, I lost it with Teddy a few years ago." They were jokes that made me uncomfortable. He always seemed to consider him as a baby, or his son or brother, so him being sexualized was extremely weird to me. I told him then that it was weird, and he just laughed, but I don't think he took me seriously.
Not even halfway through the post, we've got several red flags already emerging here. First, it is already clear that this is not just about a guy who likes stuffed animals. The way OP explains it really makes it seem like he's treating this teddy bear like a real person with thoughts, feelings, and preferences. But what's most questionable is the sexual element that's creeping in. As the OP mentioned, the fact that her boyfriend is making jokes with what he also considers to be almost like his little brother or another family member is deeply disturbing. And most importantly, even though the author told him that this makes her uncomfortable and creeps her out, he dismissed her feelings entirely by simply laughing it off, showing a lack of boundaries from the very beginning. However, the situation only gets worse from here.
About a month ago, I told him it was okay with him bringing Teddy when he was staying around my flat. I could see it was making him sad to leave him, and also was very curious to finally see him in person. So that day I drove to his flat, and he went with all his stuff and Teddy. When he got in the car, he pulled him out of his bag and had him give me a kiss on the cheek. When we drove, he opened the window and put Teddy out of the car, a bit like a dog would. He said it was rare for Teddy to travel like that, and he could feel that he was happy. Teddy smells a lot. My boyfriend hasn't washed him in 12 years. For the rest of the car drive, he hugged him and gave him kisses. He has a weird twitch where he just compulsively pats the back of Teddy. It makes a weird sound because Teddy used to be able to play music when you pressed his belly. He always rubs Teddy's clothes between his fingers. You can guess that Teddy is in a pretty bad state. He used to be red, and now he's just gray. When we are together in bed, he always puts Teddy's mouth on my mouth, and I always avoid it as I find it disgusting. And I told him that I hate it, but he doesn't listen. He also always tries to have Teddy touch my boobs or my arse. When we make love, I often end up finding him between us, and every time I throw him away, my boyfriend says, "Oh no, he likes to watch," in a joking way. He often mentions us having a with Teddy being great at licking, and them always doing kinky stuff together.
What started off as a seemingly unusual quirk of the boyfriend has now crossed into borderline sexual assault territory. The OP explains how he repeatedly uses this teddy bear to touch her as well as sneak it inside of their bed during intimate moments, even after she has explicitly told him she hates it and finds it disgusting. Moreover, the fact that this bear hasn't been washed for over a decade, combined with the compulsive behaviors, suggests this might be related to some form of an extreme emotional attachment to the toy, or even possible underlying mental health issues. However, none of that excuses the boundary violations, and what's most telling is his response when she objects. He doesn't care about her comfort or consent. At the end of the post, the OP explains that she tried to talk to her boyfriend about this countless times. However, he has never taken her seriously about it. The OP also pointed out how he is like this with any serious conversation, and that he has never truly opened up to her, instead masking himself with awkward jokes and not taking accountability. She then mentions that she has been away from him for a couple of weeks, and that during that time, most of their communication now revolved around the toy bear, as he kept sending pictures of Teddy, and whenever asked what he was doing, explained that he was playing or hanging out with Teddy. During this time away from each other, and the same day the post was actually shared, the boyfriend also called the OP perfect, which she noted as something unusual for him to say. She explains how surprised she was, and that she asked him whether he really felt that way, only to be met with the most diabolical reply.
"Actually, no. Teddy is perfect. You come way after him."
The OP then ends the post by asking the community to help her understand whether she's just overreacting, as well as give her advice on what to do with this relationship next, and how to make her boyfriend talk to her seriously in the first place. The responses to this range from concerned to horrified, with many readers immediately picking up on the red flags that OP was still trying to rationalize. Many comments mentioned how bizarre and unacceptable the boyfriend's behavior altogether was, and that forcing into having physical contact with the dirty toy, as well as bringing it into sexual situations when she expressed her discomfort, was seriously disgusting and wrong. Moreover, people almost unanimously agreed that this obsession for this inanimate object was clearly unhealthy and could be grounds for seeking therapy. Among these comments, one Redditor even shared a Wikipedia page about the kind of paraphilia that this guy probably has, called plushophilia, and that the fact he was bringing the OP into this fetish of his without her consent is a clear violation of her boundaries. The user also jokingly mentioned how this whole situation sounds like some sort of horror story, in which the guy ends up murdering the girl because the teddy gave him the order to. However, what was a joke in one comment ended up being a quite plausible reality in another. This comment stood out from the rest, revealing something that would make everyone's blood run cold.
"So, I'm pretty sure I used to be friends with this dude on Facebook and ended up blocking him. He had several profiles, one for Teddy, and would harass the hell out of women, then blame it on Teddy. He told one of my friends he hopes she gets and then blamed it on Teddy. If it's the same dude, he's out of his fucking mind, and you need to run.
The Redditor goes on to describe unblocking and finding the guy's profile once again after posting the comment, and share the relevant pictures with the OP. Thankfully, it turned out to be a completely different person with a different plushie. However, it still highlighted how these quirky behaviors can sometimes mask much darker intentions, and potentially even pose as a threat to whoever is involved with such a person. There were many more comments, and all of them basically said the same thing. The OP should prioritize her safety and cut the boyfriend out of her life. The next day, OP posted an update.
First of all, I'd like to say thank you to you all. I did not expect to get that many comments. I'm safe for those who were worried.
She then addressed some common questions, for example explaining that apart from the teddy bear situation, he seemed like a normal, popular guy, and that although she understands that people might be worried, she generally doesn't think that he would murder her or otherwise physically harm her. She continued on by saying that she now realizes how he has been overstepping her boundaries, and even gave an explanation on how she handled the situation.
However, the one thing I really didn't see coming, and you guys helped me realize it, is his lack of respect towards me and my boundaries. This whole time, I was too focused, wondering whether it was normal or not for me to feel uncomfortable. And I didn't realize that not once did he help me feel more comfortable, despite me telling him how I felt. I was meant to see him today, so I picked him up and we drove to my flat. Of course, Teddy was there, and when he came in the car, my boyfriend had him give me kisses and stuff. I said stop please, in a cold way, and he stopped. I said we needed to talk, and he listened because I started crying. I thought it would be hard for me to start talking, but since I was so stressed with all your comments, I just broke down and cried. I told him how I needed him to stop with Teddy, that he needed to stop being so close and dependent on him, that Teddy shouldn't come to my flat anymore. At first, he was silent, but then he said he didn't understand why I was so uncomfortable with it, that he was purely joking, that he knew Teddy wasn't real, and that it was hurting him to see that I thought he had a problem. I was extremely disappointed of his reaction, and just told him I needed a break. I drove him back to his flat, and that's where I am right now.
The OP also decided to share a couple of pictures of the teddy, adding 2 links. It would seem that this story couldn't get any worse, but upon actually seeing how the teddy looks like, you realize that it can in fact get worse. The plushie you see is probably far from whatever you envisioned. It is visibly dirty and tethered, and seems to resemble some sort of moose or a hippo. You can also see stains, discoloration, and also multiple holes on the toy, all of which together seem to suggest that the sexual jokes the OP's boyfriend made about the teddy were very likely more than just jokes. After all of this, an additional edit to this post revealed that the same day the OP confronted him and later on drove him back to his flat, he sent her terrible messages all night, which further convinced her that this needs to stop and that she should never get back with him again. This ending actually tells us everything we need to know about this person. Notice his response. When she finally set a firm boundary, he made himself the victim. Instead of acknowledging her discomfort or trying to understand her perspective, he focused on how hurt he was that she thought he had a problem. This is classic manipulative behavior. The "I was just joking" defense is also telling. It's a way for him to avoid accountability for behavior that clearly wasn't funny to her. And then, when she still didn't comply and stood her ground, His true colors came out in whatever those terrible messages were. OP's boyfriend was not just someone with a weird fixation. He was someone who couldn't handle being told no, and who kept dismissing his girlfriend's feelings in favor of his own pleasure or attachment, which is genuinely concerning in any context. This Reddit post alongside the account are now deleted, and there are no other updates apart from this. What we can all wish for is that the OP is safe, and also admire her strength for getting out of that situation and recognizing that her comfort and boundaries are the priority.